So now we're going to talk about the scalenes. These are very important muscles. It's a group of 3. So you've got the anterior scalenes, the middle scalenes, and the posterior scalenes. And as you can see, they come out, well, the anterior is from the cervical 3, 4, and 5, and it inserts on the first rib. So the reason we didn't draw it through here, because the clavicle is right here. So it goes underneath the clavicle and inserts on the first rib. The middle scalene starts from C2, C3, 4, 5, 6, and all the way down under the clavicle and also inserts on the first rib. Now the posterior is only from C6, C7, and it inserts underneath on the second rib. So it's on the second rib. And these muscles are the ones that help when you're breathing, because they raise up the thorax when you're breathing, so they assist in breathing. But as you can see, they're right in that triangle where you have the nerves. We have 5 nerves that come through here. The brachial plexus, and it's a musculocutaneous nerve, the radial nerve, the ulnar nerve, the, what am I missing? Median nerve, and the axillary nerve. So all of these can get pinched here if these muscles are tight. So however, we've been told never to massage here. So what I do is I go to the origins, and in order to get to the origins, now you can go lightly on them. You can, the trapezius ends right here. I can see and feel his trapezius. So remember that the scalenes are between the border of the trapezius and the border of the sternocleidomastoid. So it's in this little triangle. A way that you can work on these is you turn the head ipsilateral to hide all the major artery and veins and the nerves. So the head is ipsilateral, and I'm going underneath. As you can see, I am going to these origins underneath the SCM. I'm pushing the SCM out of the way, and very gently with pressure of 1 or 2 fingers, maybe the pressure of having a nickel on your neck, not more than that. You don't want to do damage. So you go underneath the SCM and get to the origin on C3, 4, and 5. And on this side, I'm bracing the other side of the neck so it doesn't move. So I'm going underneath the SCM. Now I'm going to the medial one underneath, and this one's originates a little higher on C2. So it's a little higher. And remember, if you feel a pulse, what do? Stay off of it. If you feel a pulse, you get off of it, because that means you're on a vein or, on an artery. Very gentle work. C3, 4, 5. You know what? I'm not able to get too much to C6 and C7. But you get the idea here that you kind of go underneath the SCM. Now for the posterior. This is actually, I get this better when you're on the sideline position. So I'll show you guys right now. You don't want to do too much work here. However, you might want to do some work right here along the clavicle, where it starts going in underneath. And this is all I'm doing with my thumb, just going underneath, because a lot of times these muscles are just really tight from the origin to insertion, and you just need a little bit of back and forth motion here, cross friction. I can feel his posterior SCM right there. You can use fingers, just not too much pressure, just to kind of start relaxing them before we turn him sideline. Because when you get to the sideline position, it is, a little bit easier to access these muscles. So I'm going to mention to you the 26 muscles of the anterior neck. There's 13 on one side and 13 on this side. 3 of them are the scalenes. 1 of them is the sternocleidomastoid. The platysma is also considered because it pulls down your neck. So every time you go like this, it pulls down on your neck. This is the platysma, all right here. The digastric, the omohyoid, sternohyoid, sternothyroid, mylohyoid. stylohyoid, geniohyoid, and thyrohyoid. So there's 13 on each side. So I'm addressing the major ones that could entrap. Remember the pec minor, and is also known as the nerve entrapper, and so are the scalenes. These are the major ones that trap the brachial plexus. And as you well remember from the other videos, that you've got to make sure that his spine is straight from, you know, C1 to C7 and T1 to T12, and from the lumbar area down. I have a pillow between his knees and the bolster supporting his neck. I want to show you some work here on the scalenes, which is like one of the most important muscles right here, well, 3. And the sideline position, you can really get to these muscles. Remember, you're working underneath the SCM, and you can really get to the mastoid attachment here. The splenius capitis also attaches right here on the mastoid process. So you can start here. You can see the origins really well. You can do 1-inch strips here. You can feel the trap. You can use the flat part of your hand. And to get to the scalenes, again, go underneath the SCM, and all the muscles fall down towards the table. Gravity kind of pulls it a little bit, and you can get underneath and get to these origins here. And like I said, I'm only really actually using these two, mainly this index finger, to go underneath and feel the transverse processes. You don't want to use too much pressure, and you can really get to the posterior one here through this sideline position. You want to get all the insertions underneath the clavicle on the first rib right here, and this will be on the second rib. The one that's the trickiest to get to is really the posterior. You can actually feel the anterior. Like, take a deep breath, Leo. You should be able to feel. Okay, exhale. You can feel the anterior one, how it raises up a little bit. The posterior one is a little trickier to feel, to palpate. However, you know, you can just work right here where the trapezius ends. This is where the trapezius ends. So it's right next to it. It's deep to that. So you can use your fingers, or you can use your knuckles, and avoiding putting pressure in this little triangle. As you can see the triangle right here. You don't put too much pressure there. Another thing that you can do is you can ask your client to bring out the other arm and hold this arm just like that. And you can really get underneath here. It kind of brings the arm out a little bit. Let's see. And you can come from the back. Just really get to these insertions underneath the clavicle. And sometimes I use my knuckle and just push forward. Remember, your shoulders need to be down. You don't want to do this because that really hurts you. So you got to watch your body mechanics again. And from this angle, you can also go up to the mastoid right here where you have all these insertions. So you can go from this side or from this side, depending which side you are on and what you're trying to do. But this is another way to really get to the scalenes. Very gentle, very little pressure right here on the scalenes. Anterior, medial, and posterior, which is the most difficult one to get to. So now we've turned our client prone. And I've already done a little bit of skin rolling and warmed up his muscles. But I want to talk about two of the major neck extensors in the back of the neck. Like the sternocleidomastoid is a flexor, and rotates, helps with rotation and with lateral flexion. Well, the splenius capitis, which it kind of faded here a little bit, but the splenius capitis originates from C7 to T4, and it inserts also at the mastoid process, right? The same as the SCM. And it mirrors the SCM. So we have the SCM right here, and then the splenius capitis in the back that helps us neck extension. So you want to make sure and get the origins right here. You remember the C7 is the more prominent, so you get the origins right here, and it's a little bit wider actually. You have it on both sides. We just drew it on one side. You can use your knuckles here, and remember you also have the levator scapula on the anterior part of the scapula. If you go underneath, all I'm doing is just palpating underneath and maybe even pinching, maybe even doing the money sign underneath, so you can really get the posterior neck muscle. And you can go 1-inch strips all the way across the occiput. You have the suboccipitals and the splenius capitis helps bend your head back. You can do your 1-inch strips right here. You're getting the erectors. You also have the spinalis, the longissimus. All of these muscles are right here on the posterior neck. So in order to do some specific work, you can even do some from this side. This is all I'm doing is just stepping back. And with this part, the thinner part of my hand, I'm just going up, all the way up to the occiput. So you can do stuff even from the opposite side. You can do some of these moves. So you can get to all these origins here. You can use your knuckles. You can get the upper trap and the splenius capitis for sure. To do more specific work, you can really just get in there with your fingers. I'm just using the tips of 2 of my fingers here. My elbow is getting very close to the transverse processes, but I am not on the spinous processes. Okay, so now we're on the splenius cervicis, and where the capitis ends, right at T4, this one starts at T3, 4, 5, and 6, and it inserts on the cervical 1, 2, and 3. So this one doesn't go to the mastoid process like the capitis does. This goes to the cervical 1, 2, and 3, and it originates. It's a little thinner, but it's also very, very important for neck extension. So the splenius capitis and the splenius cervicis are, extremely important for neck extension. So imagine people that are always on a computer, always reading. Their SCM and all the anterior muscles are so contracted, and then the 2 back ones, or the back ones, the posterior ones, are hyperextending. So a lot of times they have neck issues, starting from this area here. So you really want to make sure and get the splenius capitis and cervicis right here. Go 1-inch strips at the insertions. And if you want to get to the C1, just use one little to the transverse processes, just with 1 or 2 fingers, 1 finger or 2 fingers to really feel for those insertions. And you've got the levator that elevates your scapula. So you want to go ahead and just go on the anterior part of the scapula, the medial part. And you can find the levator right there and the upper trap. So while you're here, you want to work all these muscles while you're here. You don't want to we just showed you these 2 muscles and we drew them. But I'm the type that no matter, like I tell my students, fake it till you make it. You just go ahead and work everything out. Don't just single one muscle out, just work on all of them while you're here. You have access to the whole neck, so you can work on everything. Origins, like I said, with this one, I'm working the spinalis too. Really close to the spine. And I'm working right here on the mastoid process, so I'm getting the insertion of the SCM and also of the splenius capitis. Remember, the splenius capitis inserts in the same place as the SCM, and it's a mirror image of the SCM. They're both the same. So what you have here in the front, you have on the back. And I recommend that you guys take some medical massage classes or some neuromuscular classes to really help you understand and how to work the neck. So there you have it, neck muscles. Most of the neck muscles anyway. There's, like I said, there's so many of them that it's impossible to get them all in. I think the thing that I would want to remember from this is that anterior neck work is very delicate and you don't want to go deep. Okay, guys, well, I hope that this gives you some new techniques to work on the neck to go try out and the pecs. So stay tuned for our next video, subscribe, and give us a like. Follow me on Instagram for AMP reviews, and check out my website for any products or classes that you might want to check out. Till the next time, create a good day.